Greetings and welcome to the course. God wants you to be an entrepreneur, and what are you going to do about it? Now, my name is Stan Hustad, and I'm a teacher, I'm a broadcaster, I'm a business performance coach, and you just got your first lesson in marketing and entrepreneurship. And that is, you have to get people's attention. And there are hundreds, thousands of courses out there and classes you could take, but you saw the title and you said, what does he mean by that? Or how does he know that? What's that all about? And does it really make any difference? And so you're going to take a few seconds and find out whether this might be for you. And what you're going to discover is that this is about how the world is changing. 54 million people are making their living today as entrepreneurs, as sole proprietors, as people who are making their own business. And this is in the United States alone. And it's going and growing. You may also discover that you probably don't have a choice in some respects. If you want to have the life you want, you may have to create the situation you want. You're also going to discover that what I want is for this class to be about 1 hour, a little more, maybe a little less. And you say, but shouldn't it be longer? No. A good class, a good course should be 1 hour. It should give you something that will help you learn. It will challenge you to think maybe differently, so you learn and are challenged and you begin to think. And then if it's great, if it's good stuff, you listen to it 3 times. One class 3 times is better than one class of 3 hours. I guarantee it. So what I'm going to do is try to help you discover what entrepreneurship is all about and whether it's for you. And because it affects everything. If you're an entrepreneur, it'll affect your faith, your family, your finances, everything about your life. And that's why I put it in that framework. Entrepreneurship is not a job. It's a way of thinking, it's a way of living, it's a way of believing, it's a way of taking risks, it's a way of dealing with your fears. And I've been one for many years and I've worked with hundreds of them. And so what I'm going to do is simply help you to discover what it takes to be an entrepreneur today. And then for you to decide whether that's a course that you not only should take, but a course for your life. So I look forward to you joining me for a class that is just going to challenge you with the statement, does God want you to be an entrepreneur? That's the question. And I'll simply say, God wants you to be an entrepreneur. Think about it, deal with it, and then let's talk about it and learn about it. I hope you'll join me. We'll see you soon. Well, good for you. You decided to at least give it a trial. Try this one out and see where it goes. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you an entrepreneurial and marketing lesson. Don't worry. This is a safe place. And I'm going to make it easy for you to begin. No matter what your fears, no matter what your feelings, no matter what your beliefs, no matter what you're thinking right now about this course and me and the title, I guarantee you it will be safe, it'll be sound, nobody will be hurt, nobody will be offended. You may be challenged, but you'll learn from that. And that's the key to good learning and good entrepreneurship, is you're going to teach people about things that they might need or use, and you're going to challenge them to take action. And that's simply what I'm trying to do with the course as it is. One of the things about marketing is to help people make good choices fast. In fact, I have a little saying that I've taught many people is, the art of marketing is to help the no's say so faster. One of my colleagues in the coaching, teaching, speaking business, Seth Godin, who has my similar haircut, simply says that oftentimes you have to understand that what you are doing or what you are offering is not for everybody. And this may not be for you. Some of you really have no interest in entrepreneurship at all, and then this class is not going to be helpful for you. If you're not at least open to the idea that perhaps transcendency, that perhaps the spiritual realm, and perhaps the idea of God, and so you see, I believe in a God who wants the best for you, and perhaps entrepreneurship is the best thing for you going forward. If that is totally out of your experience, you don't want to go there, you're not going to even think about that, well then now you know that this probably isn't the course or class for you. Oftentimes when I teach people entrepreneurship, and particularly when I teach them how to be a broadcaster, which by the way you're going to have to learn a little bit about, is I simply say, choose one person and figure out how you can best help that one person. And describe that person, know what they're all about, understand them, speak to them, their life, their challenge, and their situations. And what'll happen is they'll get it, and so will many others. On the other hand, it's just like that click and switch which we all have, is you might say, well, you know, this isn't for me. I'm going to do something else. This won't work. Great marketing, as I said, is helping the people who don't need it, don't want it, who are perhaps going to say no. It saves them time because they'll discover that right away. I'm assuming, though, that you are interested in a life of being an entrepreneur, that you want to be a performer, you want to be a person who says, you know what, I don't want to be doing the same thing I'm doing all the time, all day, all my life. I'm thinking of taking the risk, of plunging out there, at least beginning to think about, take action, and maybe even take the plunge to become an entrepreneur. Well, this course, this class is for you. Now, one of the things I want to challenge you with is that I'm in the business oftentimes of making truth claims. I say this is true. Just like this class, I simply say, God wants you to be an entrepreneur, or at least think and act like one. And now, you deal with that truth claim. Can I substantiate it? What do you feel about it? What do you believe about it? Is it really relevant for me? So those are the things that go into a whole new way of thinking. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, as I said, it takes your entire life. If you're a religious person, it'll affect that. If you've got finances, if you've got family, it will take everything. As somebody said, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have what it takes, but it will take everything you have. And that's true. It is not something that you can kind of play at, think about, work at, dream about. It takes everything about you, spiritually, emotionally, financially, relationally. It is a key part of your entire life. And many times what you're going to discover is, even though you may not discover that you want to be an entrepreneur, going forward, you may have to think like one. You may have to understand that the job you have, if you want to be successful, you're going to have to be an entrepreneur. You're going to have to think like an entrepreneur within the enterprise you're in. That's vital. I know that's true because I help people try and work their way up the career ladder. And the only people who are going to make it today are those who think creatively, who think like entrepreneurs. The yes person, the yes ma'am, the yes sir, those kind of people are not going to make it going forward. And also because of the way things are happening, many of us are not going to have a choice anymore. A whole series of jobs and professions are going to be outsourced. People are not going to hire people. They're going to hire contract workers. They're going to get gig workers. The freelance economy is going and growing. And what I want you to do is I want you to say, I at least want to be a part of thinking about that. I at least want to be involved in it so I know that when the time comes I can make some good decisions about whether I should be an entrepreneur. Now what I want to do in this class, and I've had many years of experience, and I'm a coach and I'm a broadcaster and I'm a teacher, I'm going to just simply put some things in front of you, some ideas, some challenges, some information, and in doing that, you respond to me. You can personal message me, you can ask me questions, you can start discussions, and what I will do, and this class and course will begin to go and grow. In fact, it will have an ending, but it will never quit. You keep joining and we keep adding to it. So that's what I want you to think about, what I want you to do, and I want you to continue. Now, as an entrepreneur, just like any marketer, I hopefully will now convince you that the next thing you're going to do is listen to lesson 2. And that's going to be on this subject. You were made to join the Almighty Creator in creating things. And until you create things, you will never be truly happy. Now that's the next lesson on the challenge to you that God wants you to be an entrepreneur. Well, thank you for joining us for lesson 2. Now, one of the things I want to do in this class is begin to not only teach you entrepreneurship, but if you're going to be an entrepreneur or think like one, you're going to have to think like a sales and marketer. You're also going to have to think like a performer, almost like a broadcaster. And that means you're continually seeking ways to keep people in attention. They say, well, yeah, they don't go away. They say, well, that was okay. Maybe I'll listen to the next lesson. Maybe I'll keep buying from this person. Well, that was a good experience. I'll keep connected. And that's what we're trying to do. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you're going to go out there and they're going to buy you first. And then you are bringing either a product or a service or something they desire, and they want to stay connected to you. And your product and your service, thousands, perhaps millions of people may have that, but they want to deal with you. You are the person who makes the difference. So you're always seeking ways to keep people connected. And I fundamentally believe that that is a spiritual discipline. That's part of what we were made for, to be connected to people, to be in relationships. I think that's a spiritual quality that we all have. Nobody except the most reclusive, perhaps the person who has the deepest darkness in their lives, totally, truly wants to be alone all the time. Most of us want to be together. We want to have friends. We want to be in relationships. We want to have people like us. That's not just a Facebook thing. That's a life thing. So I want you to know that that's part of what entrepreneurship is all about. If all that you really want to do is just work on a machine and just make stuff, and you really don't like to be with people or care about people, you just simply want to work on machines or things like that, entrepreneurship's going to be hard for you. You have to be the kind of person who likes, or at least enjoys, getting out there and mixing it up with people. I was told that my grandfather, who I never met because he actually died the year I was born, and I missed not having a grandpa, had a joke where he'd come back after a hard day and say, from the business, some days I'd like to get into a business where I don't have to deal with the public. Well, we would all laugh. That's what I was told. They would all laugh because, of course, that can't happen. If you're going to be in business, you have to deal with the public and all of the goodness and roughness and sometimes badness and ugliness and sometimes sweetness that comes out of that. So that's very important for you to understand, is that if you want to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have to learn the art of mixing it up with a great big mass of humanity out there, because they're going to have to buy you, accept you, then they're going to have to enjoy working with you. They're going to find that your service or your product is helpful and useful and practical and good for them, and they find the experience delightful again, so that they'll keep coming back and doing it again. They'll buy whatever it is from you again. That kind of lifestyle is what entrepreneurship is all about. And if you just want to sit at a desk, sit in front of a computer, and just do things, work on things, there's a very good chance that entrepreneurship is probably not for you. Now, from that, can I actually make a little bit of more of a God statement? Again, don't worry. No one is going to be offended. No one's going to be hurt. No one's beliefs are going to be challenged in the way that is hurtful or harmful. It won't happen. As I said, one of the fundamental rules of sales and marketing is make the situation safe and make it easy to begin. And that's what I want for this entire situation. It's safe. It's easy. It won't take too long. It will really help you find your way and discover if that's the course for you. Now, one of the fundamental beliefs about all beliefs about God is that God is the creator. He created things, that the entire universe, planet Earth, even you and I are created. We are not just human beings, we are creations, we are creatures. We have been created by another. One of my favorite philosophers simply says this: we are not human beings who have a spiritual experience from time to time. We are spiritual beings that have a human experience. And one of the great psychotherapists, Carl Jung, has said that we will never truly be happy until we know that in some way we are connected to, and we are in sympathy with, empathy with a power and force and spirit above and beyond us. Now, you may not believe that, but that's simply put forward by people who are thinking about the human experience and what it means. Now, in the Judeo-Christian tradition, there is that wonderful beginning. The word Genesis actually means in the beginning, and it simply says this: in the beginning, God created. And the entire story is about creation. Now, I've thought a lot about that, and I just simply want to put this in front of you. I think we are made to be creators. Supposedly, the story tells us that we're kind of special in that we're made in the image of God. Now, my wonderful Jackson the Wonder Dog, this wonderful dog that I have, Jackson is a wonderful creation. He's kind of a gift to me, almost a God gift, because I love him and I work with him and I walk with him and everything else. But you know, Jackson really doesn't create anything. You know, he sleeps and he eats and he's warm and comfortable and wonderful dog. But Jackson doesn't do work. He doesn't create things. Human beings are made to create things. Many times I have discovered is that the reason people hate their job is because they're just doing stuff over and over and over. They're just stuffing. And I use the M word. Oftentimes is we're messaging things. We're managing things. We're marketing things. We're moving things around. You know, moving things around, marketing things, messaging things. And unfortunately, many of us don't have the experience of making things. Now, I have discovered that I am most happy when I'm making things, when I'm making relationships, when I'm making programs like this video, this course, this class. Literally, I oftentimes find that when I go out and cut roses and make a bouquet for my wife, I'm happy. I made something. For many of my friends, I actually have a little shop where I make custom pens. I love nice pens. I have a reputation as being a custom pen maker. I don't make any money on that. I mostly give them away. Occasionally I'll sell one. But I get great joy out of making something. And it's not just making money, it's making something of value and worth. Now, of course we have to make money. That's the way we keep score. That's the way we can live and do all the other things. But could it be that we're going to be the most happy when we are creating things? And that's what entrepreneurship is all about. That's why oftentimes the multi-level marketing or the franchises don't work as well for people. It'll help them make money, but they didn't create it. They just have to operate it. As one of my friends who had a number of McDonald's franchises said, I love the McDonald's franchise, but it's not the restaurant business. I make exactly what they tell me to make. I make it exactly how they tell me to make it, and then I move it out. I don't get to be a creative chef. I don't get to decide the menus. In effect, I simply am in the business of taking something and assembling it. I'm not creating and making. Oftentimes, entrepreneurship requires us to participate in making things. And that's why I think that you are made to be an entrepreneur. Many business people are now discovering that just having people do things, perform things, putting things in place, as I said, the making, the managing, the marketing, the messaging, it's very vital that we have a role in making things. We are made to be creators. We are made to make things and have a sense of personal worth in that. We like to sign things. We like to say, I made that. I remember one guy told me who worked for years at an auto assembly plant, and he said, I would just like once to be able to put my name on it and say, I made this car, and I made it, and I hope you enjoy it. But all I did was I had a piece of the assembly. I would love to make a car and give it, sell it. Now, think about the people who are happiest. They're people who are involved not only in the jobs they like and sometimes love, they're involved in making things. So part of why you need to think about the entrepreneurial challenge is it may touch a very deep part of your life, and that you will actually become a creator. You will become a maker. And that may be why you should think about being an entrepreneur. Anything clearer to you now after these 2 lessons? We'll talk about that next on Lesson 3. I hope you'll join me. Well, good for you. You came back for Lesson 3. Now let me teach you another little lesson just to begin with. One of the sayings that many of the people who've worked with me throughout the years have actually taken on as part of their own life. In fact, it's cost me a little bit of money because one guy simply called up and said, I asked the question myself and now I don't need to talk to you and I don't need to pay you. Well, here it is. It's reported that supposedly the great 18th century transcendental thinkers in New England, in the United States, and North America, Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau, many of you may have heard of them, as they made their way around their life and business and their work in Walden Pond in Massachusetts, they had a line. And the story is that when they would meet each other, they would simply say, since we last met, what is clear to you now? And that has become kind of a life mantra for me, that oftentimes when I'm in front of people, I'll say, okay, since we last talked, since we last met, since we had our last conversation, or since the last class, what is clear to you now? That's when one guy called me up and said, I was getting ready for a coaching time, and I just simply thought about the question you were going to ask, and everything became clear to me, and I don't need to talk to you this month. So he canceled the appointment. But that's a vital question. Now, we've gone through some new ideas and perhaps some challenges about entrepreneurship, about faith, our relationships, and all of that stuff. And so I'm simply saying is anything clear to you now? Now, I try and do this And sometimes I am just so surprised at myself. I will be working so hard at a project and it will be having troubles and anxieties, and as one project, it just failed miserably. And then I backed up and said, okay, what is clearer to me now? Oh, now I see. Now I get it. Wow, I missed that. And oftentimes the ability that you just simply take a time out. And this, again, is vital. This is entrepreneurial thinking. As I said, does God want you to be an entrepreneur? Well, I think He at least wants you to act and think like one from time to time. What you're simply saying is, yeah, what is clear to me now? Thoughtfulness. If you are not a person who's going to be committed to thoughtful living, if you just want to go through life and do the stuff, if you're not committed to really thinking and challenging yourself and asking about clarity and seeking it from others and seeking counsel and advice, entrepreneurship is not for you. If you think you're the smartest person in the room, if you think everybody else is stupid, if you think that nobody can do it better than you can do it, I guarantee you this probably isn't your deal. This isn't your gig. The problem is that that will make it kind of hard for you to work for others, but at the same time it'll make it rather hard for people to work for you. So you might want to do a little work there. But what is clear to you now is a key entrepreneurial lifestyle question. And the God that I believe in likes us to do that, to do reflection on ourselves and our lives and how we're living and how we're acting and how we're treating others, and to be thoughtful and meaningful. Not only thoughtful in the terms that we think, but thoughtful in how we treat others. So, as I used to say on the radio, just let that kind of sit on your head for a while. Now, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have to deal with the great big F word. And no, it's not the word some of you might be thinking about. What it is simply fear. Fear kills everything. I've been known to say that. It actually was one of the first chapters in one of the first books that I wrote. And this is the story behind it. I remember one time when a group of us were at a party. It was a kind of a family reunion, as one of the aunts and uncles was celebrating a major wedding anniversary. And of course the older folks at that time were doing their deal. And those of us who were a bit younger, the cousins, we were doing our deal. And it was just at that time that one of the cousins said, you know what, I just quit my job. You know, when you hear that, you always are a little bit startled. Well, why did someone quit their job? And particularly for my friend, he had a really, really good job and he made lots of money. And he had a lifestyle to match the money he made. And he quit his job. And of course, we all began to ask, and some of us wondered. And in the kind of back and forth, well, are you sure that's the right thing to do? All of a sudden, he looked at us and said, stop it. Stop it. Don't think that way. And then he paused and says this, don't you know that fear kills everything? Indeed it does. In fact, I actually have a class which I've given away because it was so vital and helpful. Simply says just that. Fear kills everything. Don't let it kill your chances, your plans, your hopes for success. Because I can tell you, it does. We are really fearful in many ways. And I would like not to just be full of fear, and I know I can't get rid of fear in my life, and I can't shut up the voices totally that make me afraid, but I can understand where my fear comes from. Now, one of my colleagues who's been a long-time entrepreneur, when he heard this story, he smiled and raised his hand and said, let me tell you, once you start your own business, you'll never be fearful again. We all, what? And then he smiled and said, you will graduate from fear to sheer terror. Well, I know some of those feelings from time to time. What you're going to have to do, and this is why I understand that dealing with our fears is not only a matter of self-reflection, oftentimes it's a matter of spiritual courage. If you actually go into the religious traditions of many beliefs, it is how to not be afraid. You know, one of the favorite verses of many people in the Jewish Christian tradition is from the Psalm. You know, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will not be afraid. What? Dealing with our fears is something we're going to have to learn how to do. Now, I simply am putting forward in this class the fear of poverty, which is going to be a big one in your life, will really be big because you're not going to get that regular paycheck. You're not going to know that someone is going to put some money in your bank. You may have times where someone says, you know what, it's feast or famine, and right now it's famine. What I want you to understand is if you're going to be an entrepreneur, it's going to be fearful at times, and you're going to be full of fear, and you're going to have to find a friend or a colleague or a way, a relationship, perhaps spiritual and emotional, God-given courage to learn how to deal with your fears. Let me tell you, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if your life right now is full of fear, if there's things in your life which just have you full of all kinds of fearful things, you know, perhaps you better think it over again. You may have to deal with some of the other things in your life, and maybe you're not going to be able to aspire to all the hopes and dreams you want, because becoming an entrepreneur is walking into agony and ecstasy. It's the best of times, it can be the worst of times. There'll be times of unblemished, unbroken, great happiness and joy. And there will be times in which you say, oh my God, why have you forsaken me? Where is this leading me? And sometimes you'll have businesses and projects that go flat broke, and you'll feel terrible, like a miserable failure, and we all fear failure. And there'll be times when, bang, it all comes together. You've heard that line, I love it when a plan comes together, and it's a good deal, a good sale. It made money, it was helpful, it was useful, and it brings us to the next adventure in our life. And that's key. I guarantee you that if you want to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have to view life as a journey, as an adventure, and you're going to have to be open to all kinds of things that you weren't expecting. Now, most of us don't like unpredictability. We don't like all those things. Well, if that's a major factor in your life, then perhaps the entrepreneurial life is not for you. I'm simply going to encourage you, talk to me. I've got all kinds of help, but you're going to have to understand that if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to go to flourish, as one of my friends says, the goal of entrepreneurship is to flourish in life, you're going to have to learn how to leave the valley of fear to walk up the mountain and see the high vision and feel the fresh air of flourishing. But fear kills everything. Don't let it kill you. Well, there we go. And I hope you'll join me for lesson 4 on God wants you to be an entrepreneur. Well, welcome back once again. And in case you've forgotten, you're giving attention to, and I'm glad you are, the class, God wants you to be an entrepreneur, or at least think and act like one. And I issue that as kind of a truth claim, kind of a challenge to you. And so as you learn from me, accept the challenges, and then think for yourself, you'll be able to decide perhaps whether you agree and what that might mean for you. Oftentimes someone has said to me, they said, Stan, thinking is kind of an unnatural act today, and whenever we can get people to think for themselves, we're helping them. And I hope that'll be something that will happen as I make the class a little bit edgy. I hopefully make it a little bit relational so that you can enjoy that. And again, I promise you, it will be safe for you. Now again, you may know my favorite question is, what is clear to you now? After having gone through the session so far, what is clear to you? And now I would really encourage you to just sit down. Take a piece of paper. More importantly, take a little piece of cardstock, a card that you can keep in your pocket, and write down the things that are clear to you now. And that will help you deal with this class and then go ahead and make some decisions about what you should do next. And we can talk about. Well, what is clear to me is that the studio was way too hot, so I took off my coat. And now I'm just in my shirt sleeves. By the way, one of the things you will learn as an entrepreneur is you do really have to give attention to the kind of image you have. Now, some people worry about that and wonder about that. Once you become an entrepreneur, people are buying you as much as they are buying the product or service. So when you do that, and I don't care whether you have a Roto-Rooter franchise, or whether you have your own car dealership, or whether you are simply a person who's doing an accounting job, whatever that might be, is people have certain images that they want, that they associate with people who perform those kind of services. And so once you decide to enter entrepreneurship, there may not be a dress code that is given to you by a company, but there is a dress and image and appearance and performance code that your clients or your customers or the people you want to work with are beginning to expect. And so you always need to give attention to your image. One of the lines, again, is kind of quotable, but you can use it. It says, image is not everything. And it's not. But it is the first thing. May I say that again? If you want to be an entrepreneur, even within the company in which you may be working, image is not everything. I don't believe cute is more important than character. I don't believe that style is more important than substance. I understand that. And certainly, as I say, if you're looking for a pretty face, I'm not it. My favorite line is, I have a face made for radio. The point is that you do have to give attention to your image and how that is going to work. So I really encourage you to think about how you will appear to other people. And you're going to have to give consideration to that. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, you're going to have to learn, as someone would say, the art of costuming yourself. You're going to have to create an image. You're going to have to create a persona. You're going to have to be something that brings people into the arena of goods and services that you're trying to offer them. If you have a hard time with that, if that just simply turns you totally off, if you don't want to deal with that, then again, maybe the world of entrepreneurship is not for you. Again, I'm simply trying to help you understand whether it's true for you that you're supposed to be an entrepreneur. Now, after this, you're going to have to decide, if I'm going to be an entrepreneur, what am I going to offer people? And now, what I'm going to challenge you to do is sit down and say, how can I get people to perform an unnatural act? Now, don't take that wrong. I simply mean this. We're all aware of that. All of us have a wallet or a checkbook or a credit card, and I've got all three here. We want people to look at us, look at our goods, look at our products, look at our services, look at whatever we offer, and then they do something which they really don't want to do. And you know what that is? They actually give us money. Well, you see, they would rather keep their money. They'd prefer not to give it to us. They'd prefer to keep it and use it for something else. And so what do we have that could be so compelling, so helpful, and so useful that we believe that by packaging it right, presenting it right, putting it in front of people, telling the story, that we could get people to do something they really don't naturally want to do, and that is to take their wallet, to take their credit card, and not put it back in their pocket, but actually to make a purchase. Now, what I want you to do is to go through, and this is where it becomes where coaching or consulting or just colleagues and friends could help you. What could you do that you could do it well enough that people would pay you to do it? Or what would you like to do that you could learn, or you could get associated with, that you could get help with, that you could do, that people would give you money? As one of my friends discovered, what he could do really well, and he left the insurance business because what he could do well is, you know what, it finally came to him that he could teach and speak and sing and write songs. And that's what he really wanted to do. And he got good at it. His teaching, particularly in the issues of safety, because he had worked in the insurance business where there were terrible, terrible accidents because of carelessness. And he was involved in that. And so he knew something about helping people be safe and how to have safe business practices that would both save you money and, as he would say, save lives. And at the same time, he decided that what he really wanted to do and had never been allowed to do is he loved to sing. And so he took some time to learn how to sing and play the guitar. And then he got good at it. And then he began to actually write some of his own songs. And what he created was his own personal destiny, in which he created something that he could go into the world with, go into the marketplace with, and he could present it, he could offer it, he could carry out his promise, and people would find it worth paying for. Now, that's the job you have in front of you right now in the middle of this class. And that's why this class is not meant to be 3 to 5 to 7 hours. Because the time that you need is not in front of me having me blabber about entrepreneurship. The time for you right now is to take some long walks, to talk to friends, think about it. What is it that I could offer, that I believe that I could do well enough that people would pay me to do it? Now, I'm going to surprise you. Almost all the things that you love to do, you might find that in that love of things and the things that give you joy, there perhaps is rooted in there something that you could do that could lead you to an entrepreneurial lifestyle. You could find the thing that really gives you not only the joy and happiness, and it doesn't even feel like work, but it has value, and a value that could be perhaps massaged, created, packaged, so that you could actually offer it to other people and they would pay you for it. And eventually you'll go to the Shark Tank and they'll say, what a great idea that is, and maybe they'll help you finance it. Do you see, all of that is taking the entrepreneurial life, which says, I'm going to try and create something of value for people, and it will be so valuable is they will pay me for it. Now, you don't need more lectures on that, but boy, you can ask me a lot of questions. And so right now the assignment is, take some time to come up with some ideas. Just some wild and crazy, as I say, blue sky, green light, let it flow. Don't let anyone judge you. Don't let that back mean guy, that lizard brain say, oh, you couldn't do that. You're dumb. You're stupid. You could never achieve that. Don't let that person or that figure of whatever speak that kind of thoughts to you now. We can talk about reality later. Right now, take some time to gain some clarity as to how you could create something that is worthwhile and valuable for others. God will help you. I know that. I believe that. He is the origins of all creativity. He is the origins of all good ideas. So perhaps it might be good to give him a call. He just might be able to help you out. Well, thank you. We're about halfway done. And the challenge before you is deal with it. God wants you to be an entrepreneur, or at least think and act like one. We'll see you around the corner.